Greetings. Life often presents us with a variety of individuals, some of whom may challenge our inner balance. Toxic people are not a rare occurrence. They are part of the vast human experience. The way we handle them, however, shapes our well-being and personal growth. Let us explore 7 clever ways to deal with toxic people while keeping our inner peace intact. Your inner state should not be determined by the chaos around you. Toxic individuals thrive on your reaction, drawing strength from the turbulence they create in others. However, if your inner space remains calm and untouched, their negativity loses its influence. Imagine your mind as a still, clear lake. No matter how many stones are thrown at it, the ripples subside and the surface returns to serenity. This is the essence of mastering your inner space. To cultivate this inner stability, one must develop the ability to observe rather than absorb. When someone directs negativity your way, pause before reacting. A simple breath can serve as a barrier between their words and your emotions. It is not about suppressing your feelings, but rather understanding that your emotional state is within your control, not theirs. If you allow every unkind word or toxic behavior to penetrate your inner core, you become vulnerable to the whims of others. Strengthening your inner space also means not allowing your sense of self to be defined by the opinions of those who carry their own burdens of insecurity and bitterness. People who project negativity are often wrestling with their own unresolved conflicts. Realizing this helps you view their behavior with a sense of detachment rather than personal offense. Practices like meditation and mindfulness are invaluable tools in mastering your inner space. They teach you to remain anchored, regardless of the external noise. With regular practice, you develop a heightened awareness of your thoughts and emotions, allowing you to choose your responses wisely rather than reacting impulsively. You become like a mountain, steadfast, unshaken by passing storms. In the presence of toxicity, do not feel compelled to match the energy directed at you. Instead, maintain your poise. It may not change the other person, but it certainly changes your experience of the situation. The real power lies in knowing that you do not have to participate in the chaos that others may bring. Your peace is your own, and no one should have the privilege of disturbing it. Just as we build fences to protect our gardens from unwelcome intrusions, it is essential to establish boundaries to guard our mental and emotional well-being. Setting boundaries does not mean rejecting or pushing people away. It means defining the space within which you feel safe and respected. Often toxic individuals will test these boundaries either out of habit or because they do not acknowledge the need for them. This is why setting boundaries must be done with firmness and clarity, but also with a sense of calmness. It is important to understand that boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you from the world. They are guidelines that help maintain your peace while allowing healthy interactions. When someone constantly crosses the line, whether through harsh words, manipulative behavior, or emotional outbursts, communicate your limits in a straightforward and respectful manner. You do not need to justify or explain yourself excessively. A simple, assertive statement like, "I am not comfortable with that," or "I would prefer not to discuss this," is enough. There might be resistance when you first establish your boundaries, especially from individuals who are accustomed to encroaching on your personal space. They may react with frustration or even guilt-tripping. This is where your resolve comes into play. Understand that their discomfort is not a reflection of wrongdoing on your part. You are merely protecting your mental and emotional health, which is your right. Respecting your own boundaries also means being consistent. If you set a limit once but fail to uphold it, toxic individuals may sense weakness and continue their behavior, knowing that you might eventually give in. Stay consistent, not out of stubbornness, but out of respect for yourself. People learn how to treat you based on the standards you set and maintain. Sometimes, setting boundaries may involve limiting your interaction or even distancing yourself entirely from particularly harmful individuals. This is not an act of cruelty or indifference. It is an act of self-preservation, acknowledging that some connections may be too draining or damaging to maintain. Even in such cases, it is important to separate the person from their behavior in your mind. You are not condemning them as human beings, you are simply choosing not to subject yourself to their toxicity. Remember that boundary setting is a continuous process. As you grow and evolve, your limits may change, and that is perfectly acceptable. Stay in tune with your feelings and make adjustments as necessary. In the end, maintaining your boundaries is not just about keeping negativity out. It is also about creating a space where your well-being can flourish without unnecessary disturbances. Sometimes the most intelligent response to toxic behavior is silence. Toxic individuals often thrive on creating conflict or drawing others into their chaotic energy. They may provoke you intentionally, hoping to elicit a reaction that justifies their behavior or feeds their need for attention. When you choose not to engage, you remove the fuel from their fire, leaving them without the response they were seeking. This does not mean you are conceding or allowing mistreatment to continue. It means you are making a conscious decision to preserve your peace rather than participate in needless drama. There is great power in silence. It speaks volumes without uttering a single word, conveying that you are not willing to lower yourself to the level of hostility. Choosing not to engage does not always come easily. Human nature often urges us to defend ourselves when provoked or to correct false statements when our character is challenged. However, stepping back and allowing silence to fill the space instead sends a message of strength and self-control. It shows that you are not easily swayed or rattled by external turbulence. In some situations, especially in personal relationships or the workplace, your silence may initially confuse or irritate the other person. They might escalate their behavior, trying harder to provoke you. This is when your resolve truly matters. By maintaining your calm demeanor, you demonstrate that their attempts to disrupt your peace are ineffective. Toxic individuals often lose interest when they realize they cannot manipulate your emotions. It is important to remember that silence does not equate to passivity or weakness. It is a strategic choice, a way of conserving your energy and refusing to participate in a cycle of negativity. Sometimes simply walking away from a heated conversation or not responding to a hurtful message can make a more significant statement than any argument ever could. However, silence should not be used as a means of suppressing your feelings or avoiding necessary conversation. It is about being discerning, recognizing when a discussion would be futile or when engaging would only lead to more conflict and stress. In those moments, silence is not avoidance, it is wisdom. In some cases, choosing not to engage also involves detaching emotionally from the situation. You may still hear the words being spoken or see the actions being taken, but you do not allow them to penetrate your inner calm. This level of detachment does not happen overnight. It requires practice and a deep commitment to safeguarding your emotional well-being. To reach this state, practices such as meditation, breathing exercises, or even visualizing a protective barrier around your mind can be helpful. When you have nurtured your ability to remain unaffected, silence becomes second nature. You are no longer caught in the web of someone else's negativity, and you remain rooted in your own stability. Choosing not to engage in unnecessary battles is not about conceding defeat. It is about choosing your battles wisely. It is recognizing that not every provocation deserves your response, and not every argument warrants your participation. Your energy is precious. Save it for moments and people that truly matter. Compassion is a powerful force, but it must be practiced wisely, especially when dealing with toxic individuals. It is natural to want to extend kindness and understanding to those around us, even to those who consistently display harmful behavior. However, there is a significant difference between showing compassion and allowing yourself to be harmed or taken advantage of. True compassion does not mean permitting toxic behavior to continue unchecked or sacrificing your well-being for the sake of maintaining peace. One of the most important realizations is that compassion can exist without proximity. You can care for someone, wish them well, and hope for their growth while maintaining a safe distance. This approach is especially crucial when dealing with individuals who repeatedly drain your energy or manipulate your emotion. Being compassionate does not mean you have to stay in the line of fire. Sometimes, the most caring thing you can do for yourself and for them is to step back and let them navigate their path without your constant involvement. Practicing compassion from a distance requires a balanced mindset. On one hand, you acknowledge that toxic behavior often stems from a place of pain, insecurity, or unresolved issues. Understanding this can soften your perspective, allowing you to see the person behind the behavior without harboring resentment. On the other hand, you also recognize that you are not obligated to be the recipient of their negativity. Offering silent support from afar, like wishing them peace in your thoughts or hoping they find the help they need, is a way to maintain your empathy without compromising your own emotional health. It is essential to release the notion that your compassion alone can change someone else. While your kindness might momentarily soften their attitude, lasting change comes from within, not from external influence. Sometimes people caught in toxic patterns may even misuse your compassion, interpreting it as permission to continue their harmful behavior. This is why it is crucial to be discerning, ensuring that your kindness does not become a gateway for repeated harm. When you choose to practice compassion from a distance, it is not an act of abandonment or indifference. Instead, it is a mature and thoughtful response to a challenging situation. You are acknowledging that you can care for someone's well-being without compromising your own. This boundary protects your mental and emotional space while allowing you to hold positive intentions for the other person. There may be moments when guilt surfaces, when you question whether distancing yourself is truly compassionate. It is important to remind yourself that self-preservation is not selfishness. Compassion is not about enduring suffering to prove your kindness. It is about maintaining your integrity and balance while wishing the best for others. Sometimes stepping back can even inspire the other person to reflect on their behavior as they realize that their actions have consequences on relationships. It is also helpful to recognize that compassion can take many forms. It does not always look like active involvement or offering solutions. Sometimes it means silently hoping that someone finds clarity, healing, or the strength to change. You can still hold space in your heart for their growth without allowing their struggles to overwhelm your life. When practiced wisely, compassion becomes a source of inner strength rather than a vulnerability. It allows you to maintain your humanity without becoming a casualty of someone else's struggles. In choosing to love from a distance, you are not turning away from the person, you are simply refusing to be pulled into their turmoil. You honor both your own well-being and the possibility that they too may find a way to heal in their own time and space. Focusing on your own growth is one of the most empowering ways to deal with toxic individuals. When faced with negativity or harmful behavior, it is easy to become consumed by the actions and words of others. Toxic people can dominate your thoughts, leaving you feeling drained, frustrated, and powerless. However, shifting your focus inward allows you to regain control over your life and channel your energy into something positive and productive. Growth is a continuous journey, and it becomes even more essential when you find yourself affected by toxic influences. Rather than allowing their negativity to dictate your mood or mindset, make a conscious decision to invest in your personal development. This process starts with recognizing that you are responsible for your growth, regardless of the challenges you encounter. Toxic individuals may attempt to hinder your progress through criticism or sabotage, but your determination to evolve should remain unwavering. One way to prioritize your growth is to engage in activities that nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Pursue hobbies that spark joy. Learn new skills that challenge your intellect. And immerse yourself in environments that encourage positivity and creativity. Whether it is practicing yoga, taking a course, reading thought-provoking books, or dedicating time to a passion project. These pursuits help you develop resilience and self-confidence. The more you focus on your evolution, the less power toxic people have to disrupt your. It is equally important to surround yourself with supportive and uplifting individuals. Healthy relationships foster growth, while toxic ones stunt it. By consciously choosing to spend time with those who inspire and encourage you, you create a buffer against negativity. These positive connections remind you of your worth and reinforce your desire to become the best version of yourself. Seek mentors, friends, or communities that challenge you to think differently and push you toward your goals. Developing emotional intelligence is another crucial aspect of personal growth. This means learning to recognize your own feelings without letting them control your actions. Toxic people often trigger strong emotional responses: anger, sadness, frustration. And these reactions can cloud your judgment. By cultivating emotional awareness, you gain the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Techniques like journaling, mindfulness, and reflective thinking help you understand your emotions and process them in a healthy way. When you focus on your own growth, you also become more adept at recognizing the patterns of toxic behavior without being drawn into them. You start seeing such individuals from a more detached perspective, understanding that their behavior reflects their inner struggles rather than a reflection of your value. This awareness allows you to practice empathy without sacrificing your own well-being. You can acknowledge their difficulties without internalizing their negativity. Moreover, personal growth builds a strong foundation of self-worth. The more you work on yourself, the more you realize that your happiness does not depend on anyone else's approval or validation. Toxic people often thrive on diminishing your sense of self, but when you are rooted in self-acceptance and purpose, their attempts to undermine you become less impactful. You realize that their opinions are not facts and that your journey is not theirs to dictate. This inward focus also empowers you to set and achieve personal goals. Toxic individuals may try to distract you from your aspirations or cast doubt on your abilities. Instead of giving their words weight, use them as motivation to prove to yourself that you are capable of greatness. Set clear, achievable objectives and track your progress. Celebrate small victories as they accumulate, reminding yourself that you are moving forward regardless of external obstacles. Personal growth also means taking responsibility for your reactions and choices. While it is easy to blame toxic people for how they make you feel, true growth involves acknowledging that you have control over your responses. When you focus on building your emotional strength, you become more adept at choosing calm over conflict and wisdom over reaction. This mindset shift not only protects your peace, but also sets an example for others to follow. Ultimately, focusing on your own growth transforms the way you perceive toxic individuals. Instead of seeing them as barriers to your happiness, you start viewing them as opportunities to practice resilience, patience, and self-mastery. They become less significant in your life because you are too focused on building something meaningful and beautiful within yourself. Growth is not just a way to cope, it is a way to thrive despite external challenges. By investing in your personal development, you reclaim your power and ensure that no amount of toxicity can hinder your progress. How you respond to toxic behavior defines its impact on you. Often, when confronted with negativity or hostility, our immediate reaction is driven by emotion. Whether it's anger, frustration, or hurt, toxic individuals are often skilled at provoking reactions, as they thrive on the chaos they create. However, being mindful of your reactions means taking a step back before responding, allowing yourself to regain composure and choose a response that aligns with your well-being. One of the most powerful tools in managing your reactions is awareness. It begins with recognizing when you are being triggered and understanding that not every provocation requires a response. Emotions are natural, but reacting impulsively can escalate the situation and leave you feeling regretful later. Taking a deep breath or even briefly walking away from the situation can give you the space needed to think clearly and respond thoughtfully. Practicing mindfulness helps you become more aware of your emotional state in real time. When someone makes a hurtful comment or behaves disrespectfully, notice how your body reacts. Your heart rate might increase, your muscles may tense. Acknowledge these sensations without judgment. This simple act of observation creates a gap between the stimulus and your response, allowing you to act from a place of calm rather than reactivity. Choosing your response carefully does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means allowing yourself the freedom to process emotions before deciding how to address the situation. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence can convey your refusal to be drawn into conflict, demonstrating that you are not easily manipulated by provocation. At other times, a simple measured statement like, "I do not appreciate being spoken to this way," can assert your boundaries without escalating tension. It is also helpful to practice responding rather than reacting. A reaction is immediate, often fueled by emotion and devoid of careful thought. A response, on the other hand, is intentional and deliberate. When faced with a toxic comment, pause for a moment and consider what outcome you desire. Are you seeking resolution or are you merely reacting out of frustration? Aligning your response with your long-term well-being rather than your momentary feelings can lead to healthier interactions and reduce stress. Sometimes, toxic individuals may deliberately try to provoke a reaction to shift blame or portray you as the unreasonable one. By maintaining your composure, you not only protect your own peace but also avoid giving them the satisfaction of seeing you lose control. This requires practice, as it can feel unnatural at first to remain calm when provoked. However, the more you train yourself to pause and think before reacting, the more natural it becomes to respond with poise. Being mindful of your reactions also means understanding that not all conflicts need to be resolved immediately or on the other person's terms. You have the right to take your time before addressing an issue. Saying something like, "I need a moment to think about this," can diffuse tension and give you the space to gather your thoughts. Toxic individuals may pressure you to respond immediately, but respecting your own pace ensures that you do not act in haste or out of emotional turbulence. Additionally, reflecting on past interactions can provide valuable insights into your typical reactions. Consider situations where you felt provoked and examine how you responded. Did your reaction lead to more conflict, or did it help de-escalate the situation? By identifying patterns, you can work on breaking the cycle of reacting impulsively. Practice imagining how you would ideally respond if faced with a similar situation in the future. Visualization can mentally prepare you for real-life encounters. Sometimes it is necessary to acknowledge when your own reaction may have contributed to the escalation. Taking accountability for how you respond does not mean excusing the other person's behavior, but it does empower you to make changes within your control. When you practice self-awareness, you develop the ability to admit when your reaction may have been unhelpful and strive to handle similar situations differently next time. One of the most profound outcomes of mastering your reactions is the sense of inner strength it cultivates. When you no longer feel compelled to respond impulsively, you reclaim your power. Toxic people lose their hold over you because their words and actions no longer dictate your emotional state. You become resilient, rooted in your sense of self, and capable of navigating conflict with grace. Ultimately, being mindful of your reactions is about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over impulsive retaliation. It does not mean being passive or avoiding necessary conversations. Rather, it is about responding in a way that reflects your values and preserves your inner balance. In choosing how you respond, you redefine the impact that toxic individuals have on your life, ensuring that your well-being remains firmly within your control. In the journey of dealing with toxic individuals, the most important lesson is to remain anchored in your own sense of peace and purpose. While you may encounter negativity and hostility, remember that your response defines the impact it has on your life. Mastering your inner space, setting firm boundaries, choosing silence when needed, practicing wise compassion, focusing on personal growth, and being mindful of your reactions are not just strategies. They are ways to preserve your well-being and maintain your dignity. Ultimately, the goal is not to change others or force them to see your perspective, but to strengthen your own resilience and clarity. Toxic behavior may persist, but it does not have to dictate your emotional state or disrupt your journey. By embracing these approaches, you empower yourself to rise above negativity, nurture your inner stability, and continue moving forward with grace and wisdom. In doing so, you choose to live with integrity, regardless of the challenges posed by others.